Hello and welcome back to We Talk Boxing. So this is just a post-fight event breakdown of the Sky Sports Boxers show which took place on the weekend in Coventry. Now this show was billed as the Breakthrough Prospects, where this card featured some good fights, including Cori Gibbs versus Carlos Perez, Tyler Denny versus River Wilson Bent for the English middleweight title. Karriss Artingstall defeated her opponent in the sixth round as well. It also had local fighter Dylan Cheema as well, beating his man in a 4-round decision as well. Up and coming prospect Adam Azim, again, recorded a sensational first round TKO victory to take his record now to 5-0. And then the main event, which featured, long time fighting machine Sam Eggington, who defeated his opponent Zysk to win the IBO Super Welterweight belt, which, to be honest, he fully deserved that over the full 12 rounds. Now, overall, I felt, this was a good show, like with some good fights which were put on at a good, reasonable time as well. So, realistically, I've got to say hats off to Sky Sports and the BOXXER. It was a good event. I thought all the fights were pretty much evenly matched as well, which was quite good to see as well. So a lot of the boxers on there, there weren't a lot of like first round stoppages realistically. So a lot of the boxers got enough time to kind of try and showcase their skills quite a bit. Now I'm only going to break down just a couple of fights from this event. And the first fight I'm going to break down is the Tyler Denny versus the River Wilson Bent fight, which was a rematch from their first bout, which took place in November last year, where both boxers had a draw from that fight as well. Now, in the first fight, honestly, I'd probably would have edged and given my decision to Denny. And the reason for this is because in the first fight, River Wilson Bent started quite sharp, taking the first 4 or 5 rounds, quite comfortably. But then, took his foot off the gas and Denny kind of came back and for me won the latter half of that fight. And, he was also landing the bigger punches in that first fight as well, and he finished the stronger of the two, and therefore, I would have personally have given Denny the first fight, but the judges gave it a draw, so they did it again, which happened on the weekend. Now, on the fight on the weekend, honestly, I thought I would have probably seen a total different fight, from the first fight, but realistically, it was the same tactics from Denny, and again, the same game plan from River Wilson Bent. He didn't change a thing, to be honest. He come out and he started off with a good few jabs in the first round and stuff like that, which kept Denny away for the first minute or so. But then Denny, wasn't deterred from that jab. He just literally kept ducking and diving and slipping the jab and landing some big shots. And from that first round, him landing those big shots, he just grew in confidence. And every round after that, Denny was just landing big bombs here and there. And, you could see that River Wilson Bent was getting kind of frustrated quite a lot. He was holding a lot. He was like, punching low and, and the referee had to pull him up on many occasions, really. And the referee in the end, got really annoyed and got quite agitated and had to resort to taking a point off River Wilson Bent in the latter half of the fight. But at this point, realistically, regardless of River Wilson Bent sustaining a point loss, he for me, he needed to kind of like stop Denny, and he just didn't look like doing it. Every shot that he threw wasn't deterring Denny. He was like River Wilson Bent was trying to throw a couple of right hands here or there and trying to throw the looping uppercut, but Denny just kept walking forward and at times, landing his own big shots which hurt River Wilson Bent. And to be honest, it was a good tactics from Denny. But realistically, it is River Wilson Bent's first loss on his record now. Now going forward, I feel as if River Wilson Bent has got some good traits. He's tall, he's got long range, he's young, he's quite athletic. So I feel as if with the right coach, you know what I mean, in his corner, you know what I mean, someone who could improve him technically and work on that jab, you know what I mean, you know what I mean, improve his jab, because River Wilson Bent isn't a close range fighter, you know what I mean, that's just not him. He needs to be boxing people at range, and I feel as if he could get a good coach to really work on that jab, and then every now and again throw, you know what I mean, the looping uppercut which he likes to throw, and the big straight right hand, he might have a bit more of a successful career in the future. And also as well, you know what I mean, another thing that I noticed, which was pointed out, you know what I mean, during the fight, was his foot movement. You know what I mean, it was kind of laboured and it was kind of slow, and you know what I mean, that allowed Denny to get within range. You know what I mean, like I said, the jab wasn't working for River Wilson Bent, but also his footwork was really slow. So as Denny was coming forward, you know what I mean, like River's footwork was all over the place, and Denny got within range and was landing his big shots. So I feel as if a new coach, you know what I mean, yes, I mentioned his jab, but also they would need to work on that lateral movement and stuff like that, just to get away from opponents as they're coming forward. You know what I mean? Rather than stand there and try and trade with someone at close range, use your footwork to get out of range, and then get back to the jab, pump the jab, stick the right hand, stick the uppercut. So yeah, I mean, I don't believe this is it for River Wilson Bent. I think if he could take this loss, look for, you know what I mean, some sort of improvements, get a better coach. Hopefully, you know what I mean, he could come back and have a bit more of a, you know what I mean, go at it next time. And I don't think it will be against Denny again for the English title, but you know what I mean, whoever it may be, he could potentially try and beat them and then try and climb the rankings, and maybe who knows, you know, maybe a British title or you know what I mean, something like that in the future. But there's a lot of improvement which is needed with the River Wilson Bent, but I hope he could achieve it. Now, Tyler Denny, on the other hand, you know what I mean, it was a good performance, good tactics from him. Where does he go next? You know what I mean, he's mentioned that he wants potentially, you know what I mean, the British champion, but I can't really see that fight happening at the moment. You know what I mean, but if it does happen, fair play to him. I feel as if the British middleweight champions will potentially, you know what I mean, if they stick to their game plan, should be a fairly comfortable fight for them, because, you know what I mean, although Denny had, you know what I mean, was quite successful with landing the big overhand rights and stuff like that and the hooks and stuff, he's not known as a big puncher. Do you know what I mean? So I don't feel as if he would trouble the better guys in the middleweight division at the English level. So yeah, I mean, unless he could drag those guys down to his level, and then it's a different fight. But good luck to him. I hope he you know what I mean, succeeds, because you know what I mean, he sounds like a decent guy, and you know what I mean, he's had to do it the hard way and stuff, and hasn't really had the support in regards to promoters, etc., behind him. So hopefully this is a bit of exposure for Denny, and I hope he does well. But I just can't see him causing too much trouble in the middleweight division, really. Now, the next fight, and the last fight that I'm going to break down, is the main event, really, between Sam Eggington and Zysk. Now, this was a good fight to start off with, and I kind of enjoyed it, to be fair. And the first couple of rounds, you know what I mean, first 2 to 3 rounds, Sam Eggington, that is, came out, you know what I mean, all guns blazing, and he just looked sharper. His punches looked like they were causing trouble. He looked like, you know what I mean, he's throwing some good combinations, and he just looked a total different caliber of fighter above his opponent. And literally, honestly, I thought he was going to stop him within the first 2 to 3 rounds, because every time he was hitting Zysk, he looked as if, you know what I mean, Zysk looked as if, you know what I mean, that was it. He just didn't know what to do and how to handle getting hit. And I was kind of surprising, because his record was good, you know what I mean? Like, he's undefeated fighter. I think it's 16-0 or something like that. I need to double check that. But, you know what I mean? He just didn't know what to do after getting hit, which is kind of surprising. But, you know what I mean? I'd probably say from round 6 onwards, you know what I mean, like, Sam was cruising that fight, and it was about round 6 where things started to change a little bit. You could see, you know what I mean, like, Sam, you know what I mean, probably put a little bit too much into the earlier rounds, and at this point, you can see he was getting a little bit tired, but Zysk was very durable. Do you know what I mean? He took some big shots in those earlier rounds, and he was still there, still coming forward, and you know what I mean. Like to be honest, he got better as the fight went on, and even towards the latter half of the fight, every time Sam was catching him and hitting him and hurting him, he just literally was the Terminator. He just kept coming forward, and you know what I mean. He as well was landing some good shots on Sam Eggington as well, which started to hurt him and, you know what I mean, opened up a cut and stuff on Sam's face. But, you know what I mean, overall, Sam stuck in there, grinded it down, bit down on his gum shield and stuck to his game plan. And, you know what I mean, he came out with the victory and he did very, very well. And, you know what I mean, like, I kind of feel as if this is his ceiling now. You know what I mean, I think this is the biggest point for Sam now. You know what I mean, he's won the IBO. It's probably one of the lesser versions of the world of a world champion, but sorry, one of the lesser organization belts. But overall, it's still a world championship belt, and you know what I mean. It does take him up in the rankings, but at the same time, you know what I mean. Can he? You know what I mean? Can he perform against some of the better fighters in the super welterweight? Or even welterweight division? And my answer there is no, really. But Sam is a warrior, and he would get in there with some of these better super welterweight fighters and try and beat them. You know what I mean? He would try and fight them and try and get that decision. But we've seen in the past when he has took on some of the better fighters at his weight, and you know what I mean, he's always come off second best, really. So I'm happy for Sam. You know what I mean? He's got his title. It was a tough fight in the end. After I thought it was going to end quite early, but where does he go from here? Like realistically, it'd be good for him to get one probably last big payday, against maybe a big world champion or something like that, which I can't see happening. But if he does get that, then he could potentially try and walk away from the sport at that point because he's hit his ceiling. Really, he's hit the biggest point in his career. But yeah, well done to him, and you know what I mean. Overall, like I said, it was a decent fight. He's got his title, and hopefully he could maybe have one last fight before he retires as well. Now, obviously there was some other good fights on the card as well, like Adam Azim, you know what I mean, and Dylan Cheema and stuff. But I'm gonna do a separate video on those guys, so watch out for that, really. So I'm not really gonna be talking about them too much, but let me know your thoughts. Do you know what I mean about this event, and how was it for you? Did you enjoy it? You know what I mean. Which fight caught your eye? Which fighter do you think's potentially gonna go on and, you know what I mean, do something in the sport? Because this was a breakthrough show of some of the prospects that the BOXXER has. So it was an opportunity for them. So who do you think is going to go on and potentially have a good, successful career? And who would you like to see fight against who in the next sort of fights and stuff like that as well? So just let me know your thoughts. Please subscribe, like, comment and share. Bless.